Well, despite the ongoing rise in prices, President Biden is touting the state of the economy, tweeting out, quote, "We're ending 2021 with what one analyst described as the strongest first-year economic track record of any president in the last 50 years. I try to say that without laughing. I'm afraid I giggled a little. Reaction now from Deke News Chairman Dave Maney. I mean, Dave, come on. 50 years? Who is that one analyst, by the way? Do you know?
I don't know. Joe Biden's mom. But no, I mean, look, David, I mean, we're living in a badly disrupted economy, no matter how you slice it. And it seems that the president's economic policies have been pouring fuel on a smoldering fire. And as a result, those disruptions are now turning into high inflation. And amazingly, as we all know, he's working harder and harder every day to try to jam through more programs that will make it worse. And it makes very little sense to those of us looking at it from outside the Beltway.
Well, the big picture is as follows. The third quarter GDP annualized is 2.3%. That's kind of a mediocre GDP for the third quarter. Inflation is running at more than twice that number. That means that the economy as a whole is underwater. If the economy is growing less than a half of what inflation is growing, the economy is underwater. I mean, just by that alone, we're in trouble, no?
Well, look, we're in trouble because the market economy, a global market economy, is think of it as a precision, high-speed instrument, and it's spinning at amazing speed. When we shove these lockdowns and these grotesque regulations on top of that economy, that machine splintered into a billion parts. And the idea that we could just reassemble it or that we could have hit pause on that machine and everything would go on as normal. You could see from March 13th, 2020, you could see that the actions that were being proposed were going to disrupt the economy badly. And the idea that simply is going to come back smoothly and predictably and without bad hiccups and without bad pain to people like the lower income households, right, as was discussed in the opening segment, that's just pure folly. It's amazing.
Well, it goes across all class lines, by the way, all economic lines. We did a Fox Business poll recently. 67% of Americans say that inflation has caused them financial hardship over the last 6 months. 67%. I mean, it's hard for the president with a straight face to say this is the best economy in 50 years when 67% of the public doesn't believe it.
It is hard. Well, it's not hard for him, apparently, but it is peculiar. And I'll tell you what's very peculiar about it. There is you're right. Everybody feels this pain, pinch, changes behavior, but there is no question that lower income people and households in lower skilled jobs are the ones who have overwhelmingly borne the brunt and the pain of these lockdowns. It is Joe Biden's imagined constituency of kind of the working class that has been crushed by this. And it is amazing to me that in effect he can herald himself a champion of the underclass when their policies are crushing that very underclass.
Exactly. And, you know, a big issue for Democrats, of course, is income inequality. Income inequality actually decreased after the Trump tax cuts. As of February 2019, wage growth was $6,000 greater per family over a year. 4 million people left poverty as of February 2019, February 2020. This is just before the pandemic really kicked in. 7 million people came off food stamps. Blue-collar workers had bigger gains percentage-wise than white-collar workers. I mean, the income inequality was better dealt with by the Trump tax cuts than by the policies of the Biden administration.
Absolutely so. Hey, look, you want to know how much economic pain I've been caused in the last 2 years? You know, arguably not that much. You want to know how much economic pain has been caused to a working mom or a guy who works in a bowling alley?
Right.
Like, an incredible amount. So again, there's a disparate impact of letting the laptop classes kind of, stay at home and do their thing while you shut down the rest of the world. It's not sustainable.
And then a couple of more facts from this poll that we did a couple of weeks ago. It was December 11th through the 14th. On getting inflation under control, Biden's actions, 47% say Biden's actions are hurting our attempt to get inflation under control. Only 22% say they're helping. And then Biden's social spending bill. If we can go to the social spending, that's, of course, the BBB plan. 46% of the public think that it would push inflation higher. Only 21% say it would get inflation lower, as the president said. So the president hasn't made the sale with the public.
Well, because it's unsellable. The fundamental premise that inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. And the Build Back Better proposal is to throw multiple trillions of additional dollars chasing the same amount of goods. That formula doesn't work. And by the way, the other hidden kind of whammy in the Biden administration's policies, as for driving inflations, is the entire green revolution sort of notion. We're going to find out, because without question, those gas price spikes and what's going to continue in propane, in natural gas, and in electricity rates is all due to those highly hyper-aggressive green policies. We're going to find out which kind of green matters most to the American people, whether it's that green or the green of dollars that they have left over to buy something for their kids at the end of the day.
That's a good comparison. Dave Maney, good to see you, my friend. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, Dave. Thanks very much for being here. Coming up.